9:16 on the morning show with Jeff and Will. We are back on this fine Monday morning, and joining us as she does every Monday around this time, it is the editor-in-chief of the Rockland County Business Journal, Tina Traster. Good morning, Tina. How are you this morning?
Good morning, everybody. I am dandy, and yourselves?
We're doing mighty fine this morning. How are things in the world of the Rockland County business economy?
Always riveting. Let me explain.
Please do.
So, So let's say start with there's the sacred Marian shrine in Haverstraw. And recently, the neighbors of that shrine turned out at a planning board meeting in the town of Haverstraw to oppose a subdivision of the 160-acre property and a plan to clear-cut about 13 acres, a lot, 13 acres of woodlands in order to construct a 5-megawatt ground-mounted solar array, basically solar panels, that would feed generated electricity directly into O&R.
Okay.
Now, the proposal's been working its way through the town of Haverstraw for a while now. And this applicant, the name is Core Development Group, would need various variances, zoning variances. But I think the issue really is this removal of some 300 trees, essentially on either side of what is already an existing open field.
Mm-hmm.
And, what we learned from the representative from CORE at this planning board meeting is that, this is just what the Marian Shrine wants, that they want to preserve that open field for whether it's for the view or the feeling or whatever use, I guess, of the field. But the alternative is to clear cut a lot of trees. And I guess there are a lot of people who feel that this is a questionable move in terms of, environment and habitat and viewshed and all the issues that come up when such an extreme thing is being proposed. One resident, his name is John Nix. He made a very emotional plea. He said, to quote, he said, "This is happening again." And he was referring to the disruption of land because he was remembering some 3 decades ago when Marian Shrine leased the land to farmers who bulldozed trees to plant crops. And he, I'll just quote him directly because it was I thought it was such an emotional quote. He said, "They made the land barren, the rain poured into basements, 9 houses have wells, chemicals were sprayed, there was always a bad smell in the backyard. Nobody ever told us nothing." That wasn't grammatically correct, but the point being is that, the neighbors had felt slighted. And although this is obviously, a very different kind of proposal, it's not the same thing as farming and chemicals and what have you, the neighbors are still worried about land clearing and loss of habitat and groundwater runoff. He said, we don't want to live through this again. The shrine clearing everything. We can't trust them. So I don't believe there was anybody there on behalf of the shrine itself that night. But this New Jersey, I believe they're a New Jersey company. Their gig is to put solar panels into fields. So it's a controversial subject, and we noticed that once the story was out there, we put it out on social media. And there was a lot of chatter and a lot of opinions about this issue.
Just a question we got from a caller just briefly. So how did Core Materials wind up getting access to the property to propose this?
Well, they, I guess I was just about to say, actually, that I guess, these places like Marian Shrine, I guess they look to boost their own, income. They're looking for, I guess, other revenue streams. We know that it's probably very difficult to maintain such large properties, even though they are probably tax exempt, being a nonprofit. So this is a revenue stream for them. And so I don't know who solicited whom. I don't know whether Core Development Corporation from Mawa came to them and said, we're looking for an open field. I don't know what how they came together, but I would say that I think it was the what's the one? I'm blanking. The one in Nyack, the sisters. There's a similar situation of carving out portions of land and selling it off. I mean, these organizations they might be cash poor, but they're land rich. And so I guess they're thinking. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just is Core paying them, or is Orange and Rockland paying them?
I don't know what the financial deal is, but I assume that there's three parties at the table. There's Core Development, there's O&R that benefits from the electricity, and then there's Marian Shrine that will end up with cash in their pocket. I mean, look, it's not that solar panels. I don't think that people specifically oppose the idea of solar energy, and there are plenty of places where solar panels make sense, and even at the shrine itself, it's a gigantic open field. It's already there. It's an open field. But I'm just reading my notes again. Yeah, Core is paying for this, not O&R.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but so there is the presence of an open field, and so I guess the people looking at this and saying, hey, wait a minute, what makes sense? Their take is put it in the open field. That makes sense. Don't clear cut 300 trees. We're in a sort of tipping point where we see a lot of kind of sort of scorched earth for development, and so I think you just have to drive up if you're up and down on the New York State Thruway. I mean, you can see at least a couple of examples where there's been massive just clear cutting, for the commercial development. So this is, and that campus, it really is just so beautiful. Just breathtakingly beautiful. But so it's difficult. Solar energy is good. The campus is beautiful. Nonprofits like that are looking for revenue streams. But from the perspective, I guess, of people who are living around that and in the community at large, there's the sense that there's likely, there's an alternative. And it's not clear why the shrine will not consider putting this in the open field. So we will continue to monitor this.
I did have one question, if you don't mind, Tina, just in regards to this. Do you think there would be a way, because it looks like, I mean, you said the shrine doesn't want them to put them in the already open field, which, I mean, seems a little silly, but again, I'm not familiar with the area. Maybe the trees would block its ability to gather the sunlight or something from the angle they would be placed. I'm not sure. But would there be perhaps a way to make them offset the trees being cut down by making them plant them somewhere else, perhaps in the open field that's already open? Maybe that would be possible, or somewhere else local to the area. Again, I'm not familiar enough to say there's another patch of land they could plant more trees, but just to make everyone happy, if everyone's main concern is the trees coming down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I think sometimes when these applicants come in, they kind of stick to the script. This is what they want. This is what the client wants. This is the deal they want to see go through. And I guess they hope for the best until there's a pushback. And if and when there is, I guess they have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, is there an alternative? Is there another way to do it? So I think it's a good question that you raised, because I think it's going to boil down to whether the Haverstraw Planning Board pushes back on this or not. I mean, if they find that they think it's acceptable, they let this go on to the zoning board, then those are different issues that the zoning board will take up. So I think it's in the hands really of the planning board to take a stand one way or the other, whether they think that this is an acceptable proposal. or not. And like I said, we'll be on top of that. We'll be tracking that for sure.
We appreciate your due diligence in doing so.
Yes. I just want to also mention, and actually kudos to Mayor Joe Rand of the Village of Haverstraw and the entire Board of Trustees there. They became the first village in the entire state, in the entire New York State, to opt into the recently enacted New York State good cause eviction law. That they join cities like Albany, Kingston, Ithaca, Poughkeepsie, Beacon, and Newburgh, but no other villages have joined in this law yet, and so that's really, out there, really progressive. The GCE, as it's known, limits when landlords can remove tenants or deny them lease renewals. It specifies that landlords cannot raise the rents above a statutory threshold of 10% or 5% plus something called the Consumer Price Index. This was, as Joe Rand said, a long time coming. I think they've been working on this for months. But he said the highlight of the new law for tenants is that if your landlord raises your rent by more than 8.8%, you can challenge the rent increase. There have been tenants' rights advocacy groups, as well as the Legal Aid Society, that have been at most, if not all, of these meetings, advocating for the passage of this law. And so there really was kind of a visceral excitement when finally this was passed unanimously last week, kind of a long time coming. And so, Joe Rand stated that this is not an anti-landlord law. He said, and actually there was somebody there from something called Tenants PAC. And, he said that basically the good cause eviction law provides fundamental protections to tenants who are not lucky enough to live in regulated housing. Bottom line, he said, landlords will no longer be able to evict tenants for any reason or no reason, including retaliation. And Alex Burstein, who is the executive director of Legal Aid, he has spoken many, many times and very eloquently at the Nyack Village Board meetings. And he said, evictions and being dispossessed are incredibly harmful to children, to the community at large. It's just not just. So it was, I think it was a watershed moment, and we'll see if any other villages or towns step on this one and join Nyack.
Have you taken sort of a temperature check on the enthusiasm for surrounding villages and towns to see if they're going to look at this and say, hey, maybe I should get in on the action, or hey, maybe I'm going to wait, or no, I will never enact this law because I am opposed to it? Is there any rhetoric like that you're seeing in the other fellow Rockland County villages?
Well, we have to, it's a good idea. It's a good story idea to do some polling on this and see if there's, as you say, an appetite for this countywide. But it does seem like a good and, as Burstein said, a just thing to do, to give tenants some rights. So that's, we'll watch this and we'll see how it plays out in the village of Nyack, and we'll see if other municipalities start to look at their example. It's interesting. It reminds me of all of the towns that just opted out of the whole cannabis sale, dispensary thing. And now we're starting to see dispensaries pop up in Piermont, and of course there's a Treehouse in Nyack, which is already open, and there's one possibly coming in the town of Haverstraw, which did not opt out. And really an opportunity there for towns or villages that opted out. So I think in this case, yeah, it's a question of what I guess I'm saying is sometimes what you see is it takes the first village to be the leader, and then others recognize that, oh, maybe this isn't scary, maybe this is a good thing, maybe this does make sense. So yeah, I hope that Nyack will be a leader in this, and other municipalities, villages, and towns will consider it.
Well, we shall certainly see who follows in the village's footsteps. Tina, thank you so much for bringing us the latest and greatest in Rockland County business news. And if you folks out there want to hear more from the Rockland County Business Journal, well, be sure to check out their website. That's rcbizjournal.com, rcbizjournal.com, or they've got a Facebook and a Twitter as well you can check out. Tina, have yourself a great day and a great week. We will talk to you next Monday.
All right. Lovely week, everybody.
You too.